Welcome to the first chapter video magazine of 2019. First off, I want to welcome and thank all of our new chapter officers. I really appreciate you stepping up and taking a leadership role in your chapter. The leaders of the chapter are the ones that set the direction and make all the difference in how a chapter performs during the year. So I'd encourage you to step back and think about maybe setting some goals for your chapter. What do you want to see happen in 2019? So if you're new to the role of a chapter officer, or you just want to learn more about maybe the best way to be a chapter officer, we have a number of training opportunities coming up. Now, we have our chapter leadership boot camps, which are the one-day sessions we do out in the field. And we have 3 of them coming up in late January in Riverside, California, home of Chapter 1. January 25th, in February in Houston, and then in later in February in Seattle, Washington. So if you can make any of those out in the field, we'd love to see you, interact with you, learn from you, you learn from us. It's a great experience. You also learn from your other chapter officers that are there. It's really a quality experience. We also have our Chapter Leadership Academy, which we do right here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. There is one in January, but it's pretty much full at this point. There's another one April 12 through 14. We start on in the evening with this dinner social time, and then the next 2 days we hit it hard. It's a lot of fun to host people here because you get to meet more of the staff. We get to tour the facilities and show you really what EA is all about. And then if you can't make any of the live sessions, we are going to offer some new officer training via our webinar system. So take a look at those opportunities. We would love to meet you face-to-face, but if you can't do that, at least sign up for one of the webinars. I think you'll find them very useful. Also, if you're a new officer, make sure that your chapter has renewed. We like to get everybody renewed by 12/31. But probably the first thing you need to check on is whether your renewal has been done for 2019 yet or not. So please complete that. It saves us a ton of time if we wrap this up early in the year. Now, I mentioned a few months ago the Ray Aviation Scholarship Program. What an amazing opportunity. We have $1 million annual scholarship that was provided to us by the Ray Foundation, dedicated to helping our chapters identify youth from 16 to 19 to take flight training. The scholarships are good for up to $10,000, but the chapter is going to have to play a mentoring role in the whole process. In fact, we approve the chapter, and then the chapter identifies the youth and then brings them forward, and then we kind of just review it and okay it from that point. All the funds are going to be routed through the chapter, so the chapter is the critical piece in this whole thing. If you're interested in this, I'd encourage you to go online. The application will be up in early January. If you get there and the application's not there, there's an interest form, and we will send out to anybody who signs up on the interest form immediately after it goes live with the real application. Now, one critical aspect of this is you're going to have to name a scholarship coordinator, someone that's going to be point for your chapter if you apply for the scholarship. So you might want to start thinking about that at your next meeting or board meeting about who might be an ideal candidate for that. Now, I want to wish Chapter 1 a happy 65th anniversary. As you probably can figure out, that was our first EA chapter. It was started January 24th in 1954 at Flabob Airport in Riverside, California. We're going to have a little celebration to kick the year off there, and look for more emphasis on chapters this year as we continue to celebrate our 65th anniversary of really the worldwide chapter movement. It's a great way for us to shine a light on chapters and all the great works that our chapter network does for our EA members and aviation in general. So thank you for that. The last thing I wanted to mention is we are actively seeking beta testers for our new roster management application. If you're tired of maintaining your roster on a pad of paper or an Excel spreadsheet, I'm really thinking that you're going to love this roster management application. We've put a lot of effort into it. We've worked with one of our key chapter volunteers who's a programmer to design this. It's built just for chapters. I will tell you, we're not trying to solve every problem under the sun. We're just trying to give you a very useful tool that you can use to keep track of your members, number one, but also any prospects and non-members on your mailing list, like maybe the airport manager or somebody like that. I think you'll find it extremely useful. And one of the little features that's in there that I think that could be extremely valuable is the ability to generate a photo roster that you could then share with your membership in general. I think this is something that I grabbed from Chapter 186 when I was a member there. They had a photo roster, so when you joined, you got it. You could look back and go, oh yeah, I talked to that person. Oh yeah, that guy's name's Joe. It's super helpful not only for new members, but also for officers and existing members. In our chapter we have 150 members, and sometimes it's hard to keep track of everybody. So if you can get a photo, put their name in the roster, associate the two together, I think it'll be a win for everybody involved. So if you're interested in that, just send an Excel spreadsheet of your roster to chapters@ea.org and we can get you started. So I'm really excited about it. Looking for more feedback from the field. And then ultimately, once we get it up and running well, we're going to compare that data to the EA database of your members and our members so that we would have an understanding of who's in your chapter that is an EA member, and then we'll share back with you what everybody's status is in your chapter for you to do with what you will. So I think you'll find this super easy to use. It really was designed with the goal of making it easier for you to run your chapter. So the last thing I wanted to share is that the 1 Week Wonder, the RV12 that we built during AirVenture 2018, is now at the paint shop, and expect to see that at Sebring, at the Sebring Expo, if you make your way down there in late January, with a brand new paint job and everybody who helps name on the aircraft. So with that, I want to thank you for being a chapter, and I hope that you have a wonderful and prosperous new year. And I've asked Jack Pelton to give you an update on where things are in 2018 and kind of looking forward to 2019. So I'm going to turn it over to Jack. Thank you.
Welcome to this month's Chapter Video Magazine. We've just concluded an unbelievable 2018 at EAA. So much has happened, so many good stories to tell. The chapters are becoming more and more vibrant, and our membership couldn't be stronger with 220,000 members and growing every month. It's great to close out such a wonderful year like that, but what's more exciting to me is what's happening in 2019. 18's behind us. Let's look forward. Let's talk about what you can expect to see in 2019. One of the most important things that you'll see in 2019 is our annual convention at AirVenture, some changes that are occurring. One of the changes that is certainly something we learned from 2018 is how to improve on the aircraft arrival process. So we're putting in place a new NOTAM. Probably about 80% or 90% of the NOTAM has not changed, but there's been some very interesting additions to account for the problems we had last year when we had inclement weather and a lot of people trying to arrive at the same time. So as we continue to communicate that and publish it, I encourage everybody to really take a long, hard look at it and prepare when you come this coming July for these improvements in safety that you'll see. And when you land and you tie down, you'll see some other exciting changes on the grounds. We continue to expand the South 40 parking area. We've leased some additional land that was agricultural land that we're going to turn into a very nice area for parking with all the amenities that you need to camp in that area. And again, that is in order to ensure that anybody that comes to Oshkosh and flies in, that we've got a place for you to park your airplane. My motto internally has been, we just don't want to turn anybody away unless it's due to a weather issue, but having plenty of parking to go around. We've remodeled the home-built area on the grounds for AirVenture. So you're going to see a big change there, and I think you're going to see a much more warm and inviting area. The old Federal Pavilion building is gone, and all of the home building exhibitors are going to be in that one area, and we'll have a home built and review area. Just lots of exciting new areas that I hope you'll get a chance to come see and enjoy. Of course, one of our big features year-round and during AirVenture is our museum. And we just finished a ribbon cutting on a new exhibit, which is NASA astronaut and Apollo 8 mission commander Frank Borman's display. Colonel Borman had given us his collection of memorabilia for us to, he's an EA member, for us to take care of and preserve that legacy. And it's a beautiful display that I hope you'll come and see and enjoy, because it tells the story of Frank's journey through NASA and beyond. We already had talked about in 2018 the Ray Scholars Program, where the James Ray Foundation has given us a very large sum of money on an annual basis to be able to allocate flight scholarships through our chapters. They're $10,000 scholarships. We have the ability to issue 100 of them per year, and they will be done through our chapters, with our chapters mentoring and ensuring the success of the young people that are qualified for those scholarships to get their flying completed and done. So that's another big initiative that we'll actually start handing out in 2019. On an advocacy front, we have done a lot of good work that we'll start seeing coming into fruition in 2019 and 2020 around a title that the government's using called Mosaic. But it's initiatives around home building rules that are going to enhance the home building rules, and also around the light sport pilot LSA aircraft rules and potentially increasing the weight of what those airplanes can be. So that's great work that our advocacy team is now focused on since we've completed, thanks to your help, the ability to get the ATC issue behind us and in the past. So as 2019 is coming quickly, lots of wonderful things to look forward to at the chapters, and we're looking really forward to you continuing to help us in participating in getting young people into aviation, which on the Avior front, there will be more comic books coming and other exciting initiatives that we have around Avior, again, that will help us connect the youth after they've taken their first Young Eagle flight. So headquarters is vibrant, active, and trying to support and help you. We look forward to seeing you throughout the coming year. Thank you.
I did do this, and I didn't even have to have a calculator. Yak 55, Yak 55, put them together, it's a Yak 110. There's some math for you. In my research, I have not been able to find any airplane that's ever been developed from taking two separate airplanes and putting them together and then adding a jet engine. So they have taken two airplanes in the past and put them together, but none of them ever took the extra step of adding a jet engine like we did onto this airplane. We added the Lear 24 CJ610, which gives us an additional 3,000 pounds of thrust. In about 2009, I saw two Yak 55s sitting on the ramp together, and they kind of looked like one airplane. I was like, that's kind of cool. And of course, a huge hero of mine was Jamie Franklin. He put a jet on a biplane. And so I think the idea all right around 2009, 2010 became quite interesting. And the idea was out. And I'm like, man, we got to do this because somebody else is going to take this idea. It's way too good. So I was getting kind of desperate. In about 2016, I'm talking with Dell now because he had built the Jet Waco, and so I'm like, all right, let's build a Yak 110. October 24th of 2016, we had purchased the blue airplane. I bought my partners out of the red airplane, and we had them in Caldwell, Idaho at Dell's shop, ready to take apart and then start to put them together.
About right. It's gonna work.
We did have an artist rendering, and it like, wow, that is gonna look cool. And then when we brought the two airplanes together, we took the right wing off the red one, the left wing off of the blue airplane, and we pushed it into the hangar, and we got them sitting right next to each other. We looked down at it, and it's like, that is just amazing. It is gonna be beautiful, better than what I thought it would look like. This airplane, in every step of the way, when we thought something was going to be complicated, it just turned out to be easier. The control systems, the ailerons, it's like, easy. The rotors ended up from being something that was going to be complex to very easy. And so it's been one of those projects where every step of the way, things were helping us out, and it was easier. And the airplane is just, it's so straightforward. And that's a testament to the Russian airplane. So that made it really easy from an engineering standpoint to put the whole thing together. That center section is held together all just with 3 bolts holding it to this fuselage and 3 bolts holding it to that fuselage. We took the best of Russian engineering and threw some U.S. engineering on that center section, and here it is. We flew it November 19th of 2017, and we flew it with the jet engine just this year in April for the first time. We did 2 air shows in June, and now we're at the world's greatest air show here in Oshkosh with a one-of-a-kind airplane. It's unlike any other place I've ever flown. I mean, the people, they ask technical questions about the engine and how it was mounted and the jet pipe length and the landing gear and the brakes. And I mean, they're pretty savvy here. They know a lot about airplanes, and they can tell that this is certainly a one-of-a-kind. Add the jet power, I mean, you have to be careful because the airplane will do 250 miles an hour, which is the max speed, in about a 45-degree climb. So you have to play around with the throttles a lot. Like when I'm coming down in altitude, I'll pull the power back on the props to add a little bit of drag, so I can still come around the corner making some noise with the jet. And then some of the aerobatics I do when I'm spinning around, I'm using actually the differential thrust capability of this airplane. So this one I'll have full power, and this engine over here I'll pull all the way back to idle power, and the airplane will spin around really fast like a top up there. So yeah, this one definitely is quite complex. We've repurposed 2 airplanes that otherwise would just have been forgotten. So that's really what I think is the greatest part about this, is that we've repurposed something, and now we have this opportunity to be here and share this passion with everybody.
Hi, I'm Dick Kohler. I'm a tech counselor and a flight advisor, also an ANPIA, and I also teach the Sport Air workshops. Let's chat a little bit about primer systems. There's a lot of confusion on this, I find, and there's several different options to pick from, and that probably adds to the confusion. We'll see if we can clarify things a bit. First of all, almost all primer systems are based on 1/8 inch copper tubing. And the basic primer will take fuel out of the gascolator up to a manual pump on the firewall, or to an electric pump, manual pump on the instrument panel, and then, but if you use an electric pump, it may be on the firewall, and then to some sort of either a distributor manifold or just directly to squirt the fuel into some point in the induction manifold of the engine. Some squirted in right at the top of the cylinder, some squirted in somewhere in one of the induction tubes. The idea is to get atomized fuel up into the system so that when you crank the engine, it'll quickly start to fire. So the basic tubing, 1/8" copper, you want to buy quality tubing here if you can. It's going to be flexible, and as you take it through, like from the engine to the firewall, you'll want to put multiple loops in it to absorb the vibration of the engine without breaking. Because of that movement, it does tend to get brittle over time, so it's an important safety item to check the integrity of the primer system. Once you're coming back to the engine, there are 3 basic systems that are used for actually attaching to the engine. And probably the most elegant is the one that uses a solder-on tip. And here I have a piece of injection line. This is the solder-on tip. This is an AN 800 series tip, and it has a special AN 805 series nut that goes with it, and a series of special nozzles. You can see the very fine discharge on this nozzle. So it would act like a squirt gun to finally atomize the fuel, vaporize it up into your induction system to get the engine to have something to fire on very easily. There's a great reference in the Spruce catalog to all the parts of this system. It does use unique B-nuts and threads. It's not common with anything else. You cannot mix these nuts, for instance, into any of the other systems. So make sure you plan and go accordingly. Again, the B-nuts go on in a standard fashion, tighten down onto the, help if I line it up, and you end up with a fuel-tight system. Now, another way you can go is to go ahead and use your standard flare fittings. And I don't have the exact sizes here. This is a 1/4 inch, and you can see the size of these flares. They're much bigger than you would normally use for your, again, for your 1/8" tubing. So that's a -4. This happens to be a -3. The next size you would want to be a -2 for the 1/8" tubing. Notice how large these standard nipples are on the end. There's no way you're going to get vaporization out of those. A good technique is to use these brass fittings, and you can go back and solder that hole closed, and then use a fine drill bit to drill it out to make it give you more of a squirt gun type of effect. So you can modify the brass fitting and turn it into a fine tipped nozzle for your home built. Probably the least expensive and the simplest way to go is with automotive compression type fittings. And you can find these oftentimes in the auto parts store. They use a standard compression sleeve that's so tiny I'm not sure you can even see it. You slip that onto the copper tubing that uses again, unique B-nut to this system. Slides into the nipple, and you tighten the B-nut on to give you, again, a fuel-tight seal. Once again, these have a smaller than maybe normal hole, but it's not going to give you a squirt gun effect. So I recommend soldering the end closed and drilling it out with something like a number 60 drill bit to get yourself a real fine spray coming out of there. These, for your home built, will work very, very well. You can buy the parts at most any auto parts store and go ahead and assemble a system from it. I hope these little clarifications will help you build your aircraft quicker and more efficiently.